We're going to call to order our first hearing of the evening. This is the application of Wing Louis at 59 Lodge Street, Milton. My name is John Leonard. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me this evening, two veteran board members. To my immediate right is board member Francis O'Brien. To my immediate left is board member Emmanuel Alves. The rules for this hearing are going to be, first we'll hear from the applicant, then we'll hear any person present with questions of the applicant or the applicant's attorney. And then we'll hear from people who want to speak in favor of this application, if any. Or we'll hear from people who wish to speak in opposition to this application, if any. We're tape recording the proceeding in addition to the community television portion of this. The tape recording here is the official record. We've got a big room. We don't have a lot of people present tonight, though. I'd ask everyone to speak up nice and clear and loud. Tell us your name and address before you speak, so we'll have an accurate record of the hearing. This is an application, as I said, by Mr. Wing Louis at 59 Lodge Street, seeking to build an 18 by 24 by 2-story addition, which is to be 8.8 feet from the left side property line and 8.4 feet from the rear property line. The property is in a residential zoning district. The setback requirements on the sideline, I believe, are 10 feet. Yes, and the setback requirements, because this is a corner lot, after doing the mathematical formula, the required setback is 15 feet 6 inches. The applicant this evening is represented by attorney Marion McGettrick of 10 Crown Street in Milton, Massachusetts. And Mrs. McGettrick has filed with us the application. We did receive a letter from Joseph Prondak, who's a building commissioner, dated March 16, 2015, describing the need for a variance under these circumstances or possibly a special permit, which the applicant has elected not to pursue. We have a letter from Mrs. McGettrick dated September 2nd, 2015, describing the application and the need for the variance and the reasons why the variance should be granted. We have a plot plan of land by Michael Paul Antonino. It's dated July 15th, 2014, and it shows the subject property in its relationship with Lodge Street and Maitland Street. And it shows the existing residence on the lot and where the proposed addition is to go. And we also have a set of plans by RJD, looks like architects, in 2 sheets. One of them is A2 and EC, showing the exterior elevations and the existing conditions floor plan for the site. So that is rather long wind-up. Mrs. McGettrick, it's good to see you. Welcome back to the Board of Appeals. We're delighted to hear from you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I do have a little bit of extra information for you tonight, which I'll pass out now, and including a letter from neighbors supporting the application with a number of signatures, and I've attached to it a assessor's plan so you have some idea of where some of those signatures are coming from. I have a supplementary memo and some materials along with that, which I'll just give you a copy of. And I have some photographs of the existing house, which might be helpful to you.
Great.
This is just a larger version of the architect's plan. It might be easier to read. We have only one copy of this, but we give to the chairman. Okay. And these are photographs to Kathy, and then a copy of an additional memorandum. Nothing startlingly new in it, but just a little bit more information.
Great.
Background information about the history of the lot.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So this is an application for a variance, and what the Wing Louis and his wife propose to do is to build on top of an existing garage. As you face their house, the garage is on the left, it's attached to the house, and they want to slightly enlarge the footprint of the garage and build up 1 story. So what they intend to do is to continue to have a garage on the first floor. They'll be creating a larger garage, which will be more accommodating to today's cars and will provide storage. And then they want to provide a bedroom on the second floor. They are a family of 4, 2 children, 2 adults. They have one very small bedroom right now, so small that you can't close the door when you have a bed in the bedroom. So they need a better sized bedroom for their family's use. And they've consulted with an architect, talked about what their needs are as a family for additional storage, better parking, and an additional bedroom. And the plan that the architect has come up with is the plan that you have before you. This plan is, fairly symmetrical. It creates a symmetrical addition on, 2-story addition on the one side of the house. Is designed to look consistent with the exterior and the construction of the main house. If it were to be designed to fit within the existing lines of the garage, it would create a small bedroom on the second floor, and the applicants would still be dealing with a small garage without real storage space. So in order to really do what they're looking for, they need a variance because they're increasing the size of the existing garage. The history of the lot is that this is typical of Milton. This neighborhood, the Lodge Street neighborhood, was a subdivision created around 1925. Many of the lots in the subdivision are less than 7,500 square feet. Some do meet current zoning. A few are larger, but many of them are smaller, and a number of types of houses have been built and added on to in this neighborhood. So this house is a very well maintained and attractive colonial style house. This proposal is intended to fit in well with the neighborhood. The applicant has spent considerable time consulting with his neighbors, not only immediate neighbors, but some at greater distance. And we've provided a letter for you with signatures from many of those neighbors. In addition, as you face the house, the neighbors on the left have been consulted and support the application, have not had the opportunity to sign the letter. So you will not see that address on the letter, but those neighbors are in support. And I think there's one neighbor, not the one directly to the rear, has signed. Yep. And then another neighbor just to the left of the neighbor to the rear also has been consulted and supports the application but has not had a chance to sign. So
How about the neighbor to the right?
the neighbors
There
to
is
the
no-
right.
or is there-
Well,
across the street,
this
or-
house faces an intersection, but there's a neighbor directly, across the street. And this is the area where Congregation Beth Shalom is building a driveway or into their new temple. So across the street from your house, from the Louis house, Mr. Louis' house, is going to be the driveway, nicely landscaped, but that will be a change for them. To the left, there are neighbors who are relatively new. They've recently purchased, and they have been consulted and they have signed, supporting the application. The neighbors on the right, the Santos-Suazos, have been there for a long time. They support the application. The next 2 neighbors after that on the right, and so on. So I tried to identify some of the numbers in the assessor's plan that I gave you so that you could see that. Now,
Thank you.
So we have support from neighbors. We have, I've explained in my memoranda the rationale for proposing an addition of this size and why variance is required for this property. And I would say that's pretty much our case, but we'd be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Reynolds, do you have any questions of Mr. McGettrick or the applicant?
One, I'm looking at the plot plan. Is it actually the case that the existing garage is close to the lot line, is 8.4 feet?
Have a look at.
Maybe
Yeah, yes. Yes,
It is. In back, the existing garage, well, this is a corner lot.
Right.
So I think that's the back. But anyway, it is slightly closer as it presently exists than it will be when it's rebuilt.
Be actually further away from the lot line.
It will be on the rear, that's correct. On the left, it will be a little closer to the lot line, so that's where the variance is.
The neighbor, again, to the position that the left-hand side, that's the one that you've consulted, is in support, but has not had a chance to sign.
Yes.
And who is that?
Mr. Allen. The Allen.
Allen is their last name.
I think you said this already, but the plan is to have the addition be consistent with the existing structure in all respects. I don't know.
Mr. O'Brien?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have any questions of the applicant and Mrs. McGetrick. So let's see if, is there anybody present this evening who has questions of Mrs. McGetrick or the applicant? And I see nobody who seeks to ask any questions. Are you taking notes, Mr. Corcoran? Okay, that's great.
Learning opportunity, right?
Is there anybody present this evening who wishes to either speak in support of this application for variance or wishes to speak in opposition to this application for variance? And the record indicates that there is no such person present. So, Mrs. McGetrick, do you have any concluding remarks, or are you going to rest on your presentation?
I think we'd rest on our presentation. Anything you'd like to add?
Okay, great. So we'll close the evidence at the hearing, and as you probably know, under the open meeting law, we're obliged to discuss this application in open session and vote on it, and we intend to do that here and now. Mr. O'Brien, do you want to be heard first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought that the case was well presented. These are small lots. This is the type of relief that the board has historically granted many times in the past. The only wrinkle is that it's a larger addition than usual, but it continues a de minimis intrusion into the zoning code, and I'd be in favor of granting the relief.
Mr. Alice, please.
I agree. Don't think I have much to add. I think the case for the requested relief has been made, and I'd be inclined to vote in favor.
Well, I also agree with my colleagues. I thought the application was very well presented. I thought Mrs. McGetrick's materials were particularly detailed and analytical and actually very helpful, and showed that you actually could put an addition on the garage with a special permit, but it's not going to benefit you very much, and the cost and expense it certainly wouldn't be worth bearing, and your family, your growing family would not really benefit to a substantial extent. So
Mr. Chairman, may I add one additional
course you
comment? Thank you. One of the things I'd like to add, just simply, is that it was a well-presented case, but it was a well-presented case because it was clear that an awful lot of thought had gone into this. There was an extensive package containing some memorandums with the history of the lot. Clear that a lot of thought had gone into this, both from a legal point of view and an architectural point of view. So we could have had a situation here where a less than aesthetically appealing addition was plopped on to this lot. That's not the case here. So I think it bears a thank you to the applicant for going to the extra effort to have this be presented in such a good way.
Well, I agree with my colleague, and also the record indicates that the applicant has hired an architect in order to make this improvement not only suitable for your family, but also to benefit the neighborhood as well as your own residents. So I think this is the type of variance that we take some delight in granting. We always like to see abutters, people who are affected possibly by the variance, assenting in a petition, and so either the applicant or Mrs. McGetrick were very diligent in securing those signatures. It's certainly not easy to do, but it's certainly helpful, and it's an indication that the neighborhood here is in full support. So I intend to support this variance with the usual conditions that we grant, and namely that the improvement here is going to be substantially consistent with the architectural plans on file and the like. So with all of that having been said, all those in favor of granting the applied for variance, please say aye.
Aye.
Well, congratulations on your variance, and you can go home a hero to your wife and children. You did a wonderful job, and good luck with your variance. As Mrs. McGettrick can tell you, you can deal with Mr. Prondak, and he may allow some type of preliminary demolition or movement of structures and that. But you still have to wait 20 days before you can formally do your building permit. So do you have contractors in the street ready to jump into action here?
Oh, yeah, it's looking.
You do?
Not
Okay.
yet, not yet.
Not
But
yet,
that
but-
doesn't mean that we're saying take a really long time
Okay,
filing the
so-
opinion, because there's a lot of competition for contractors these days. So I know the Louis would like to get started.
And if you can find one at an advantageous price, you also want to be ready to strike. So we'll do our very best to grind this out with some degree of dispatch. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Marion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks.
Thanks.
John, I'll take this.
Okay.
We'll get it out by next week.
Terrific. Thank you. No, I'm trying to find Mr. Corcoran's address, and I can't find it, but that's all right. 1266?
Furnace Brook Parkway.
Ah, okay, thanks. I didn't see a stationery here, Ned, so,
I didn't file original petition. I was retained to assist after.
that's fine. Just wanted to give you a pluck. All righty. We're going to call to order our second hearing of the evening. This is the 7:45 hearing. This is the application of Andrew Common, seeking variances from the Board of Appeals pursuant to Section 6B4 and 6C2 of the zoning bylaw. The applicant is seeking to build a 23-foot by 26-foot by one-story detached garage, 26 feet from the front property line and 6.3 feet from the left side property line. And the zoning bylaw requires that detached accessory buildings be built at a minimum of 40 feet from the front property line, and that accessory structures be built a minimum of 8 feet from the side property line. My name is John Leonard. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me this evening, to my immediate left, is board member Emmanuel Alves, and to my immediate right, board member Francis O'Brien. The rules are such that we'll hear from the applicants and their attorney, Edward J. Corcoran, Esquire, of 1266 Furnace Brook Parkway, Quincy, Massachusetts, but we won't hold that against him. Mr. Corcoran resides in the beautiful town of Milton. So we'll first hear from the applicant. We'll hear from people who have questions of Mr. Corcoran or the applicants, and then we'll hear from people who either wish to speak in support or in opposition to the variance application. I've just read or at least summarized the advertisement. We also have the application from the applicant, Andrew Common, It's dated September 1st, 2015. We have a denial letter by Mr. Prundek, our building inspector, dated 9/1/2015. We have some design plans by Margolis and Fishman, architects, I believe, of Massachusetts Avenue in Cambridge, showing the proposed elevations of the improvements from different perspectives. And we also have a plot plan of the subject property, and that is prepared by William, looks like Dentremont, of Lynn, Massachusetts. Well, I'm sorry, but of Native Tech, Lynn, Massachusetts. I think this is the first time we've had Mr. Detremont's plans before the board. It's dated May 7th, 2015, and it shows the existing dwelling, the proposed garage, and the various dimensional issues that are set forth in the application. So we thank the applicant for filing all of these materials, and in addition to that, we do have an addendum to the application prepared by Mr. Corcoran, setting forth the various attachments, the requested relief, a discussion as to why the relief has merit, and a conclusion paragraph. So we thank Mr. Corcoran for that analysis. It is undated, but it's stamped in with the town clerk of the town of Milton on October 2nd, 2015. So welcome back to the Board of Appeals, Mr. Corcoran. We're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm delighted to be here. Once again, I am joined by Andrew and Amy Harmon, who
Hello.
are the
How are you?
Good, how are you?
the applicants and the owners of the property at 117 Plymouth Avenue. This is one of those neighborhoods with lots of pre-existing non-conforming lot sizes, structures with respect to setbacks and otherwise. I have part of the supplemental materials that I submitted a proposed amended certified plot plan which would adjust a portion of the relief requested from 26 feet in terms of the front yard setback to 25 feet on the front yard setback. The purpose of that is that there's a fence that was installed parallel to Plymouth Avenue at the end of the driveway, and they want to move the garage inside, outside of the fence line without having to adjust the fence itself.
Okay. And that's the plot plan that's dated September 9th,
That's correct.
2015, attached here.
That's right. And it's unsigned, but it is it's amended only with respect to the setback off the front yard. I also have, and unfortunately I don't have more than one copy, but I will hand this to the board. It is actually a very good overview.
I'm sorry, Mr. O'Brien has a question, please.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Corcoran, just so that we get our dimensions right, 25.5,
25.5 feet on the plan. I'm suggesting 25 feet in case there's a few inches in terms of the construction activity that might go out there, but the relief requested is in accordance with the plan. It's
so the relief being requested is a 25-foot
25 foot.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
And-
Mr. Chairman.
And the side yard relief has not changed. It's 6.3 feet off of the side yard. What's interesting about this lot is that it is, most of it is in Milton, but a portion is in Quincy. And if you see the,
We get to use their trash system, so, you know, not a
Well,
chance.
that may be a good thing.
That is a benefit.
and the town line comes at an angle to the property line, and the proposed side yard is actually approximately the same distance as an attached garage to the house on the Quincy side of the same property line. Interestingly, in the Quincy bylaw, just for a parking structure, the setback is only 3 feet. Regardless of type of parking structure, whether it's open, whether it's garage, whether it's a large garage, it's 3 feet. This would not require relief on the Quincy, from a Quincy bylaw. Obviously, it requires relief with respect to Milton. And really suggesting that the garage itself as it relates to the garage that abuts on the other side of the common property line, there's an equivalent distance. And you can see that in the second of the aerial plot plan, aerial plan that was downloaded from the town's GIS system. And it shows the portion of the Harmon property that is within Milton. That's the yellow square. And it appears, I handed in 5 copies of color plans, so I apologize if the board members didn't get those, but I can, if we trade,
I just,
maybe,
I printed out.
Easier to see.
Okay.
so, one of the things about, if I can just follow.
You know what, I'll just look on with John's. Oh, there's another one in there?
So, as,
Mr. Alves may need one as well.
That's okay. I think I know where Attorney Corcoran's gone.
so I have two, the aerial photograph that's taken from the town's GIS website shows the property line, and it shows from a sky level what else is in the neighborhood. And I think it's very helpful because it really shows how the neighborhood was developed. The common lot line is seen, the house in Quincy is just off the common lot line in accordance with the dimensions that are shown on the plot plan. We're really coming no closer to that lot line. Directly across the street, there is a detached garage that is bisected by the town line, set back some 20 feet from Plymouth Avenue. There's a swimming pool in the yard on the Quincy side, but that also, that property, the buildings on that side come right up to the common property line across the street. That's visible. Get on the same angle that you're looking at it. This is property line, the house across the street. There's a swimming pool just on the Quincy side of the line. There's a garage. It's identical to what's being proposed here that is bisected by the town line. And with respect to that, we have letters of support from a number of the neighbors, including Eileen Creighton, who owns the property directly across the street at 110 Plymouth Avenue. Nancy Frades, who owns the property on the Quincy side, on the same side of Plymouth Avenue, is the direct abutter on the Quincy side. But the direct abutter on the Milton side.
Stop you right there. When you say the direct abutter on the Quincy side, that's the property with the pool that has the...
No, it's the property next to the bus.
Oh,
Nancy is the one with the.
In Milton. In Milton.
She's the
She's
one
on
with
the
the pool.
Quincy side.
Oh, I'm sorry, she's
So let me,
she's here.
Yes, that's Nancy.
Okay.
Right there.
And I thought you had this one.
That Milton.
Yes,
or
that
Quincy?
one is Sharon Trapp.
Ah.
That's that one right there.
And we have Sharon Trapp, I'm sorry, that last one is the one with the pool directly across the street on the Quincy side.
on the
That's
Quincy
Nancy Craig.
side, right.
And we have Sharon Trapp, who is the direct abutter on the Quincy side,
127.
127.
Yep.
We have, can't quite tell.
Is that-
Because he didn't print it.
Oh, that's Tracy. What's?
Yeah, I don't remember. Coletti?
I can't remember her last name. I'm
Who's-
sorry. She's further down here
Where does she
actually.
live?
She.
She lives
Quincy.
132 Plymouth Avenue in Quincy,
She's next to the pool
next door
across
to
the
the one
street.
with the pool.
Got it.
We have Jake Fuller at 124 Governor's Road in Milton, directly behind. And we have Caroline Newcomb, 107 Plymouth Avenue, directly abutting on the Milton side. So we have all of the direct abutters, a substantial of the direct abutters, who have had a chance to review the plans, understand how it will work, and in agreement that this is appropriate. A little bit of the history to be helpful, there was when they purchased the property originally, there was a small garage located at the very back of the property. It was, very poor condition. This is a photograph. It was set back almost on the rear property line. Itself was non-conforming. They tore it down because it was unsafe. And they fenced their yard because they have a dog, and they will someday have young children, and so they want to create a nice fenced area, and that can be seen. I'll hand this in to the boards for the record. This is a photograph of the fence coming off the end, this is the corner of the house. The Plymouth Avenue is on the front side, this is the rear area, there's the fence. It's another look at the same, actually looking at it from the street of the house. So the area that would be, where the garage would be located, seen from the street, is to the left of the house. There's an existing driveway, an existing low-level retaining wall that between the driveway and the Quincy side property line. And so the purpose is to retain the existing driveway. The garage would be constructed such that you drive into the driveway and turn left into the garage as opposed to straight into the garage, which I think provides a little additional privacy for the next door neighbor, because in terms of entering and backing, those movements are screened by the garage itself. And make a slightly safer means of accessing Plymouth Road, Plymouth Avenue itself.
Question. The fence that's at the edge of the existing driveway
Right.
that you're proposing not to go beyond with the proposed garage, describe that for me. So what kind of fence is that?
It's a 6-foot tall vinyl white solid privacy fence.
And this is a series of photographs that show the fence from different angles for their appearance of the fence.
How long has that been in place?
Yes.
A little over a year,
It was done last summer.
year to a year and a half. There,
Last
there was
July.
some old fencing, some very old chain link fencing, and some solid, like 6-foot tall wood fence that both of, the chain link fence was very old and rusted out, and the wood paneling was actually falling. They fell down multiple times during Sandy and Irene, and so we had kind of tried to prop them back up, and eventually we just tore it down and replaced it with new vinyl fencing.
And then finally, as part of this package, which I'll leave with the board, is a photograph of the property directly across the street, showing the garage approximate to the property line, and the next door neighbor, Quincy side, showing their attached garage with driveway approximate to the common boundary line. So I'll leave these materials for the board. Part of the package. So, I think the minor variance, if you want to call it that, is the is the variance from the 8-foot setback on the side lot line to something a little bit more than 6 feet. It's consistent with the nature of the abutting property, and it's consistent with other garages attached and detached that can be seen in the aerial photo that has been provided. The rear, the setback from the front.
Before you go to the rear, you mentioned earlier that the Quincy requirement for the property next door is what, 3 feet?
3 feet.
Sorry, proceed.
That's all right. And then, so the more significant, if you will, dimensional relief is the relief from the front setback, which under the bylaw is 40 feet for a detached garage. This is at, as we say, 25 feet. It is more consistent with the way the rest of the neighborhood was developed. It would, to place it now in the rear would sort of reconfigure the way that the Harmons have developed their yard space for their dog today and for young children tomorrow. It's a privacy yard that works for both those perspectives. And so, based on that, I would ask the board to determine that the proposed relief would be consistent with other issues in the neighborhood, that the variance may be granted to avoid a hardship associated with modifying those existing conditions, that there would be no substantial detriment to the neighborhood, certainly as evidenced by the support from others in the neighborhood, and that the variance may be granted without substantially derogating from the intent of the bylaw itself. And so I'd open it up to questions of the board, and
Mr. Elf, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just a couple. The fence we just discussed, so as proposed, it would come all the way to the property line, so that there wouldn't be an opening from the side of the garage next to the Quincy neighbor going into the backyard, right?
Alongside the
The
left side.
back of the garage. Well,
The back of the garage, yes, there would be no opening. The fence would remain in place.
6.3 by 26 foot space there that basically ends at a wall as you're walking towards the back of the property.
Yes.
right, the fence comes off the rear left corner of the dwelling,
Yep,
straight over to
That's
the
all the way
property
through.
line, goes all the way to the property line.
and there's an opening, I presume, by the deck there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And currently, and the driveway exists, and they currently park their cars in the open air in the driveway.
You mentioned children, is that to come, or do you have
To
young
come.
kids? Okay.
It's too kind. We don't have any yet.
Hopeful.
And you said that's a 6-foot tall vinyl fence at the back. It's been in place for some time. And again, we wouldn't have the information, but the Quincy neighbors, one of the signatories of the
Two of the Quincy neighbors, the Quincy neighbor immediately abutting
Yeah,
on the same side of the street, and the
Yeah.
Quincy neighbor, two of the Quincy neighbors across the street.
but the one mostly affected is the one where the new property is gonna be constructed, closest to their line. They're in support?
They're in
They are.
support.
And the garage will be basically in line with her garage, so it won't change
Right,
or
right,
affect her view at all.
Yep, and they won't see your headlights going into, got it. No further questions.
Mr. O'Brien?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have any questions at the present time. I think Mr. Ellis asked the questions that I was interested in. Let's see if there's anybody present this evening who has a question of Mr. Corcoran or the applicants. And the record indicates there's no such person present. Is there anyone present this evening who either wishes to speak in support of this application or wishes to speak in opposition to the application? And again, the record indicates no such person is present. So, Mr. Corcoran, do you have any concluding remarks? Or?
No, I leave it to the board. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we'll close the evidence portion of the hearing and discuss this application as we're required to do under the open meeting law. Mr. O'Brien, do you want to be heard first?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It appears that Mr. Corcoran has learned his lessons well. This is another very well-presented request for a variance. Little unusual in that we have the town line kerfluffle, if you will, but minor complication. I think that this, again, well-presented, logical, laid out, thoughtful presentation, both from the zoning point of view as well as from the design point of view. So I think that the way the proposed garage is laid out, the way it's cited, it's a proposal that makes sense. And in that regard, I would be prepared to vote in favor of it with the usual conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ellis, please.
I agree. I think there are unique circumstances that are specifically applicable to this lot. This is, I know the area, it's consistent with the other properties in the area. There's no opposition from the neighbors, so I'll be inclined to vote in favor of the application.
Well, I agree with my colleagues. I thought Mr. Corcoran presented an excellent application. I think the applicants, I presume you prepared this wonderful little handout. I don't know whether you're in the advertising business or whatever, but it is wonderfully put together, as Mr. Corcoran's.
And I voted without seeing that.
Yeah, right. Take a look at it. Mr. Corcoran's other materials, including the amended certified plot plan. Yeah, when I first looked at this application, I thought it was asking for a lot of relief, but when you look at the property from the air, and you look at the various plans, and you look at the neighborhood, and you look at what is being proposed, it's not only consistent with what you find in the neighborhood, it's also a benefit to the applicants, and to force the applicants to build a garage in the rear open space of their property is, it's not prudent, and it's not a proper way to be enforcing the zoning bylaw. So I intend to vote for this application for variance with the usual conditions. So all those in favor of granting this application for variances? Aye.
Aye.
So congratulations on your
Thank you very
your
much.
variances. Mr. Corcoran, do you want to tell us about construction plans, or is this going to be a spring project, or are you going to try to reduce?
Yeah, it'll be a spring project. I don't think we're gonna get to it before the winter.
Okay,
Sunset.
okay. Well, that will give us plenty of time to prepare a thoughtful and well-reasoned decision. So congratulations on your variances, and
Good luck.
nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Corcoran. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
And with that having been said, we've finished the business for the evening, so we will adjourn.
Thank you.